We're just going to hear. At least we don't hear the sound anymore, so hopefully this means it's good. Oops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Is that better?
Very
A
yeah,
good.
little bit.
much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will they hear us from that far?
I don't think it went too far, but I think the screen is just a little bit sided. Yeah.
Good though.
Huh? Like that. Just a little bit. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're back live, and hopefully, people know. Doesn't look like anybody has joined us so far, but yeah, I think we should just like finish the video and have it on there.
I mean, there's a good chunk of it. Oh, so the one that was done, what happens?
It's still there. I'm just gonna post it. I think.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, so let's just finish, since hopefully people will know to join us here. But I agree that probably YouTube, Facebook Live is probably
much
more
better.
stable. I think I haven't done much with Instagram Live, but Facebook Live.
Instagram life is just as good. So what do we do? Do you start talking now, or do you kill it and
No, I
delete
think
this?
no, I
It's
think
live.
we're good. I think we're live right now.
Well,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, we're live right now. So I think we should just like record, the answers and just have people, because I can always share this to my Facebook and Instagram audience. I think for me, that's why I prefer YouTube, because it's easier to like get it to the larger audience versus Instagram and Facebook. But YouTube Live doesn't seem to be the best. But we'll figure it out. Okay, so the other question that I had is, when did you decide to walk away and why?
Um, so when I got shot by my ex-husband, um, yeah, that was it. It was like, okay, this man truly wants me dead. This is no longer love. There's no longer let's pray about it. Yeah, there was no more hope. So I was just like, do I want my son? Because for him, and I'm not trying to justify why he does or why he did what he did, but he also is a product of a domestic violence upbringing. He witnessed his father attempt to kill his mother, attempt to kill him. Like, he has his own trauma that he dealt with. So I feel like, yes, when you start to see things, that's the only way you know how to let your aggression out, is by what you saw. Not, like I said, not justifying why he did what he did, like as far as that it was right, no, but that's all he knew. So I was like, I don't want to continue that cycle as far as letting my son see that. That's not how you treat a woman. That's not how you treat a human. Him as a man, that's not how I want him to be treated, because like you said, I mean, domestic violence, and I've done a lot of work with the YWCA, so I know that domestic violence is on both ends. And like you said, a lot of men don't come forward because society conditions us to think that men are supposed to be strong. They're manly men. You don't allow anyone, especially a woman, that's supposed to be second class. That's the mentality that we have. But yes, anybody can hurt anybody. But when that happened, I said, no, I don't care if I have to start from the bottom. I literally packed up anything I could pick up, put it in my car. My son was in the back seat. He had like everything on. You could barely see him in his booster seat. And I just drove 4 hours back home, went to my mother's house. She didn't ask any questions. She just, welcome home. And I've never looked back.
Oh wow, that was a lot. I didn't even know that she got shot. Wow. Okay, I don't know any more likeness to war than that. So, Reggie, I'll give you a chance to answer that question. When did you decide to walk away and why?
for me, there was I was gradually walking away, but this is talking about 9 years of this. So I was walking away way too late, you know? And, but I know there was an incident where I was with my staff in my studio, and she wanted to take my call. And I was going to go and deliver some things. We had just finished a fitting for a designer, and we were going to deliver um, some things to the designer, right? Because they sent their model in, but they didn't come in. So we wanted to, the fitting went well, so we're just going to give them the items. And she said she needs my car. I bet that her car is too small to do whatever she wanted to do. But I held my key. She couldn't force the key out of my hand. So she just kicked me so hard, and that she kind of dislocated my finger. And at that point, I just said, you know what? This is it. I have to leave. But a few days before then, I was just leaving the studio, and on the hallway of where we were, there were cameras everywhere. And she came behind me and started dragging me. So I had to lean into her so my shirt doesn't get ripped. And I was telling myself, I'm a very respected person in the industry. But right here, I'm always being abused. Like, I'm nothing to this person, you know? So there were so many things, but within these 2 days, there were so many things, tiny little things, that were very small in relation to the things that she would do, you know? And then she said to me, so because I kicked you, you're leaving? Of all the things I've done to you, this tiny little kick is why you would leave? I was like, wow, yeah. But that was the incident. It was the smallest of incidents, but that was, yeah.
But it's interesting to me though that you would consider that small, because quite honestly for me, and I might be wrong, but I feel like when you are abused at home, when it's just two of you, the only witness is two of you. I think that for me, it's something that you're able to lie to yourself, to push behind you a little bit. But when you have witnesses to this humiliation, it becomes public humiliation. It's just, I feel like it's deeper, it hurts more. It runs, the wounds run deeper, I think. And that might be what it was for you, because like, not only is his staff, your staff was witnessing this, but their camera. So the landlord was seeing this, anybody, any number of people could be watching you get treated this way.
I think that was it. I think the fact that she went public and hit me in front of my staff a few times, and then on the corridor with all the cameras, that made it hard for me to like walk around my area feeling like a big person. I felt already very little.
Yeah.
So, and because at home when she would hit me, she would be really loud about it. I remember always checking the hallway before leaving my house, because I don't know what my neighbors have heard. But I still considered everything that happened at home fairly private.
Mm-hmm.
But when she started hitting me in the office and on the corridor of the office, I felt like it was so public. I couldn't hide anymore.
Yes.
So I think if she hadn't done that, I probably would stay a few more years.
So who knows?
Because
maybe
at this point, the company which we are building, at that point we're almost at $4 million. So I felt like we've reached this mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I felt we've reached the mountaintop. For her, I felt like, in hindsight, I felt like she always wanted us to get to that mountaintop, and then she would make it so uncomfortable for me to stay there with her,
Mm-hmm.
So I would drop off, and she would stay at the mountaintop herself. And that was how I felt, but I had no validation until when I left. Then all the things that happened after that pointed to this assumption that I had. Yeah. But I feel like abusers have a reason, as misguided and as sick as it may be, they built all their reasoning around it. They always have something.
Tell me, did you feel that way? Did you feel like your ex-husband had a reason? Did you ever think that he had, or you think his goal was just to kill you, really?
So for me, one, the reason why he married me was because he wanted to get his citizenship. That was never even We never discussed that until after
I see.
the abuse
I
started.
see.
And for me, I'm like, you're not going to be giving me black eyes. I'm not going to be going to the hospital and give you citizenship. Like, I'm not going to do that. If you want something from me, then you have to earn it. And I know that made him more angry because he wasn't able to be at the level that he wanted to be. Because all he saw were his friends that were now reaching certain statuses, certain levels, and he was stagnant because he didn't have his papers. Um,
Oh, you can't blame me for that.
no.
No, you can't blame me for that. But like, yeah, I guess that's something to look out for because I didn't really see that. But just thinking about people who are with you for a reason, for like a gain that is just beyond loving you, right? Because love should be about love, I think. Um, so just for two of you, what will you say to someone today who, because I've already, like, since I started putting it out that I was going to have this live, I already got reached like a couple of people who are actually living in this domestic violence relationships right now reached out to me. So I invited them to join us live. So I just like, what will you guys say to someone who's watching us right now and they are living this life that you were able to walk away from? What is the one advice you would give them? What will you say to them right now?
Leave. It's okay to walk away with absolutely nothing but the clothes on your back, but leave. Part of what caused me to have the courage was one of my childhood friends. We grew up together, and she was one of those kids that was always beautiful. So you know how a lot of times you go through adolescence and you have that awkward phase when you're growing into your body, but she never had that awkward phase. She was always just very beautiful from when we were kids to teenagers. So she got married to a police officer. She had kids. That police officer killed her. He killed her because he'd already been beating her, and she said she was leaving. He killed her. He tried to make it look as if it was a suicide, but of course they came back with the ballistic reports, and they saw that it was. She couldn't have done it because she's left-handed, and the way he didn't think about that because he was trying to be quick. So I'm just like, do I want to stay like this? Do I want that to be my story? Do I want that to be my legacy? What I'm known for is that, oh, she died because she couldn't leave. No. I don't care if nobody in this world talked to me again. Everybody in my family could have been ashamed, but I had my life. And me leaving was the best thing that has ever happened to me. My son, we both went through therapy because it's very important because my son witnessed a lot. We both had to go through therapy, but like she said, my son is in school to be an engineer, a mechanical engineer. He's on Dean's List. He's making great grades. He's very respectful. Myself, I learned how to love again, as you see.
Yes. So
it can happen.
Yes.
But it will never happen if you don't leave. So leaving is key. It's essential.
Okay. What would you say to somebody who's living in this the type of life that you were able to walk away from? Someone who's experiencing that right now.
I think I would echo what Terence just said. I mean, I honestly, I wish I had an opportunity to listen to her before, because I did exactly that. I was able to walk away with just what I had in my back, and I left everything. I gave up everything. And I didn't give up everything because I intended to. I was just in such a funk that I didn't know what meant anything anymore. The state offered me therapy, so I was in therapy for like 2 years for the state of New York, which was amazing for me because I didn't know what therapy was. And I think it is so important. I had no cognitive relationship to domestic violence until I was in therapy. I didn't know, I couldn't contextualize it. So that meant that I could have abused someone without even knowing what it was. I didn't know what it was until I went to therapy. So I think what I would say, it doesn't hurt you to talk to someone because You would learn a lot. You would get there'll be shared stories that will give you energy, that will give you belief, and yeah, I think it doesn't hurt to leave. Yeah, it might be the most difficult thing because what domestic violence does is that it does create a funny attachment. I don't know if you're attached to the pain, but it's so much. It's hard to just up and leave. You know?
Or your emotions are
Yeah.
like that.
It's
Emotions
just
are
so
strong. They're
hard
stronger
to
than
up and
physical
leave.
strength.
You know, I remember. I swear to God, I remember 2 years after leaving, 3 years after leaving, sleeping in my couch, afraid to sleep on my bed, you know, because the bed had so many triggers and I would cry all the time. But you know what's funny? In my mind, though, I was still in love with the person that was abusing me, you know, because I had felt this huge attachment around her to enable me to stay in that thing instead of detaching myself. I thought, attach, validate, you know, reduce their stress, whatever it took to problem solve instead of living, you know. So now in hindsight, I think it's really good if you find it, if you're lucky enough to see it early, because sometimes it can come on you before it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to see it early, I think it doesn't hurt to leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So definitely, you guys have heard it from them. The resonating advice is leave. Again, like we said before, this is not a problem that you can solve. But something that Edgy said, which I feel like I want to echo, is that you can be in love with your abuser. It's normal to be in love with your husband. It's normal to be in love with your wife. It's normal to be in love with your relationship partner. You are going to miss your abuser because not because you like being abused, there's something wrong with you, but because it's normal to have emotional connection. And emotional connections are one of the strongest forces on this earth. People can, talk about IQ all they want, but people with high EQ, they are winning at life because emotional intelligence, emotional strength is real strength. Okay, so just know that you are normal if you in love with your abuser. If you can't leave because you're in love, know that it's normal. But like the resonating advice is to leave. One thing that I kind of want to touch on a little bit from the answers that they've given us so far is that number one, in Angie's situation as a Black man in America, when the domestic violence in his home started, he didn't feel safe enough to call the cops because he could easily be blamed. But there was a time, like when he needed a surgery, where there was a policeman who saw through this and who could have been on his side, who could have helped him push to press charges, but he didn't. And also in Tammy's situation, there was a policeman who, essentially advised her to leave. Like, unless you want to live in a body bag and your son might even be in this body bag as well, leave. And I think that in America, where we live, I want to say we have to count ourselves a little bit lucky. A lot of my followers, a lot of my audience living in other places, like Nigeria, for example. I've heard about what people call the police when they're being beat by their family, by their husband, and the police said, "Oh, it's family problem. We don't settle family problems here." And so I think for you guys, you definitely, need to have, how would I put it? Something else that is bigger than policing in your community. You have to have something. And also, one of the problems we also have back in Nigeria is the fact that for Tammy, living felt like being a failure to her parents. Living felt like being a failure to her family. And I want to, at this point, you guys know one of my biggest hashtags I use on social media is Raising Kings. I cannot overemphasize the power that you have as a parent. Please start from yourself right now. Even if you're not in this situation, if you are a parent, please know that you have the power to raise a child who, even because any one of us can be in a domestic violence relationship. Any one of us. You know, even I could step into it tomorrow, right? So being a parent that your child can call the phone and say, hey, look at what has happened, mommy. This is, what do you think? You know, being a parent who is not the reason your child decides to stay in a domestic violent relationship. Being a parent that doesn't tell your child, go back to the abuser, go and be nice. What will people say? Right? Just understand that we all have power. Every single one of us in this world, we have some power. So use that power. And if you're a parent who is going through domestic violence right now, please, 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 if you don't live for yourself, live for your child. Tammy just told us how she had to go to therapy for years with her. How old was your son at the time you left?
He was 9.
So a 9-year-old boy having to go through therapy with his mom to be able to unlearn what he has learned, because living in that situation where his stepdad was hitting his mom, he could easily have become an abuser, right? And so that is what you're exposing your children to when you stay in this relationship. You essentially are raising sons who might become abusers and daughters who might, or even sons who might receive abuse. You can raise someone, you know, like Edgy, who just wants to fix things. You know, you see a woman who is not doing right, you just want to fix it. Like if you're a man who saw your dad beat your mom, you might never want to hit a woman. God forbid, you don't want to be like your dad. So you might raise a son who takes abuse because you expose them to that space. So let's all just play our own part, because we all have power. And the final question I have for you guys today is, what does life after you walk away look like? I know you already talked about therapy, but what does life after, you know, you walk away? What was the first couple of days, months, years? But what does life look like right now for you? How does your PTSD look like, essentially? Because it's real.
So for me, life was very difficult. I walked away. My father was like, you need to go back to your husband's house. Like, we spent a lot of money on this wedding, on this marriage. It's just prayer that you need. I don't have a child that's going to be a divorcee, this, that. So we stopped talking for years, me and my father. But he's my biggest cheerleader now, so we've moved. But my ex-husband would still like terrorize me. He would drive to Tennessee to stalk me. Like, I had to get a restraining order. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, so I had to go through chemo. So I'm dealing with that, dealing with a divorce, still raising my son, still also having to take care of my elderly mother. But years went by, and I had to fall back in love with myself. Because at the end of the day, when I went through therapy, I had to learn that I truly didn't love myself. And it was not even because of what my ex-husband had done. There were so many other things that I'd already experienced in life through adolescence that I had just internalized. Because in our community, we never had that mental health platform where we could go out and talk. Like in the Nigerian community, what is therapy? There's no such thing as therapy. Like, you deal with it, pray about it, you know, pray until something changes, that type of thing. But no, you need people to talk to. You need to seek help, because that's why now suicide is becoming so rampant. Like, I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't think about committing suicide multiple times. I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't try it multiple times. But I'm here because God had a reason for my life. Maybe it's so that I can share my story and save someone else's life. But there's hope at the end of the tunnel. You can find love again if that's what you're seeking. You can start a business if that's what you're seeking. But the most important thing is that you just have to learn how to love yourself. Know that you are worth more than what somebody put you through. Because I felt worthless. Like, and then I was so caught up with what everybody else was gonna think of me, what people that don't pay my bills were gonna think of me. I got to the point I didn't want to go out. You were just there to celebrate my birthday. I never celebrate my birthday because I have PTSD from that one time that I got beat up by my ex-husband on my birthday. So I felt like my birthday was like taboo. Like, okay, I shouldn't love myself too much on my birthday. I will go above and beyond for anybody else's birthday, but when it's mine, I'm like, yeah, please, no, I don't want that attention. And that's what my fiance was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. That's what my fiance.
Oh, that was
But
real
yes.
good. Yes.
But he was just like, no, like I will never, and I know that, like, and that took a while to learn how to love someone else and allow them to love me, because you always are like, you have your guard up because it's like you were vulnerable before and you allowed someone in and that person tore you down mentally and physically, and you didn't do anything wrong. All you did was love that person and you desired to be loved back. So
Okay. All right. So IG, yeah. What does your life after? What do you look like, Dan? What does it look like now? What does leaving look like? What does it look like for you?
So I always say that this thing, it takes so much from you that you need time, you need new love of you, new love from someone else, and more time. Because the PTSD is real, seriously. I remember I did not, and I'm not joking, I have so many mirrors I use for work, even in my house, in my studio. I did not look in the mirror for 2.5 years. But the mirror is right here. I never looked in that mirror. I remember waking up crying. I mean, you go from having everything to not having anything, plus all the scars, emotionally and physically. It's just a lot, and you don't get the realization until you go to therapy. So at therapy, the floodgate opens, right? And everything is on top of you. So I did not go out. So I was like, I hung out in the, I mean, with the top brass in my industry, and my industry is very showy. It's about what you're wearing, where you're going. And for 2.5 years, I didn't look in the mirror. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't buy underwear, nothing. I mean, like, I lost track of what it was to feel good, you know? I remember the first time I went out in 2.5 years, my friend was doing a performance at Carnegie Hall, and she was like, you gotta come. So I went to Urban Outfitters. Now, I've never shopped in Urban Outfitters. I don't even care what it is. But for that day, I bought a $26 t-shirt to wear. $26, like, that was the first time I looked in the mirror because I had to try that shirt. And you know what? I bought that shirt on the way to Carnegie Hall because I just left home, like I was just gonna go. Then I went to this store. I bought the shirt. So my plan was I wore a t-shirt to the store. So I was gonna put my t-shirt in a bag and wear the one I buy from Urban Outfitters to the event.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was the first time I looked in the mirror in 2.5 years. For the first time I saw myself. Now I have a mirror at home, in my bedroom and in my studio, like the living room where the studio is. I never looked in this mirror for 2.5 years. The only thing that I would see, like I took so many selfies of myself, like, but all of these selfies were very sad. Like I was always crying. I never slept on my bed. I laid on the floor. The bed had so many triggers. Basically, everything that gave me comfort was a trigger. Seriously. So it's taken me a very long time. I think my biggest rescue was restarting my companies all over again, restarting my business. I just focused all my energy on that. But in the meantime, I forgot me though. I just focused on the company. I focused on the business. That was pleasure that I could trust, you know. I could get in my car and drive. I had lost everything. I had lost my cars and everything. So now I didn't have a car. But I didn't need a car. I was inside for 2.5 years. And then Corona came. Just so many things. But restarting my companies was a big, like, I don't know, like a big relief for me. Like, I now had something to put my energy in. But I forgot this, that I needed to put my energy in myself too. And I remember my auntie always telling me, "But AJ, at some point you're gonna have to meet someone else. At some point you're gonna get out. You're gonna love again. Imagine if you never loved again. That means that woman did everything." I'm still in that journey though. I'm still learning, especially to love myself. Still learning to accept love when I get it, when I see it, when it's given to me, because it took me so long to trust that it actually does exist. Now, before therapy, I believed in love 100%. After therapy, I forgot. I couldn't define it anymore because it hurt me so much. But therapy kind of opened my eyes. But I had wished my eyes were not open, because when my eyes were not open, I loved, like, just with me, that's why I put up with all the pain, But now my eyes are open and I felt like it's so uncomfortable, like I couldn't adjust myself to what love really is, like getting it. Like I didn't know what it meant to get it, So it's so. I think people underestimate how deep the scars are from domestic violence. We downplay it so much.
Yes, especially in Nigeria.
People don't understand. Like, for a victim who has been like at the real end of it, it never goes away.
No.
And then for people who love you, come after all that stuff, they spend all their time trying to fix you. It's so unfair. It's really unfair. Unfair to you, unfair to the people that are going to love you, who love you. And it's not fair,
Okay, all right. I think people are sending you love right there. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so very much for staying with us through this. I promised to do a giveaway, and don't think I forgot about it. I haven't forgotten about it. I have a list, but I see that I can't read the comments that you guys have posted so far. So just make sure, if you watched us live, make sure you commented, and also drop your Instagram or Facebook, whichever one you entered the giveaway on. Drop that handle on your comments, and I'm going to select my winners on the comment section of this post and the one from the previous one. But I just want to wrap this up by saying that something that Temi said when I asked her what life looked like right now after everything, and she said she learned to love herself. And Edgy, just also said that he's still learning to love himself. And so I think, because when Osinachi died and this thing just kept clicking, I kept talking to Edgy about it days and days and days after that. And even before Osinachi, actually, domestic violence have been something that for some reason I tuned into. When I was a child, like 11, 12, and my neighbor would beat his wife and throw her out the door with her kids, and they would cry all day, and women would come to try to, console her and find a way. It just kind of stuck with me. And if you follow me long enough, you know that I've dabbled in writing. I had a blog when I moved back to Nigeria, returned to Nigeria for several years while I was there. And I still dabble in writing. I've written a short story, even though it's unpublished. And I've also been working on several novels. But this story came to me one time where that was really kind of around domestic violence. The main character in the story was a woman who came, I will not give it away too much, but a woman who literally walked down from her staircase one day and she saw her husband was dead, and this woman was completely unfeeling about the fact that the fact she was actually grateful to God that her husband died. And my story is around, finding out how she got there, right? And so I've really been tied into the story a lot. And when I was talking with Edgy about this after Osinachi's death, I kept thinking about what can I do to help? What can I teach? I never experienced a messy bus, so what can I teach to help? And I feel like self-love is what I can teach. Self-love is what I believe that if you can find a way to love yourself, if you can find a way to accept the beauty that is uniquely yours, the fact that you might be poor, you might be barren, you might be any single thing people want to ridicule you for, but there is a reason why God, who is good, who's the biggest force on this whole universe, there's a reason why he created you, there's a reason why he breathed into you, there's a reason why you're living today. So that makes you a big deal. And if you can understand that you are a big deal and love yourself, I think that it will force you to be more, how will I put it, more resentful of anybody who tries to bring you down. Whether they're bringing you down by emotional abuse, or they're bringing you down by physically beating you down. I used to hear about this guy that was short and he was married to this tall lady, and every single time he would beat her down because he's trying to bring her down to size, And so I think that if you can find a way to love yourself, if you can be full of yourself, Oprah teaches us to be full of ourselves. If you can find a way, I teach, I am very, like I said that I like being very humble, and I'm still very humble. And I feel like you can be humble and still love yourself. Humility is just that. Jesus was humble, but Jesus knew he was the deal. He was the real deal. He knows he was, the only God on earth. Still, right? Jesus didn't let anybody beat him because he knew who he was and whose he was. So if you can love yourself by knowing who you are and whose you are, I think that it will go a long way to, even if it's in getting the courage to leave, because there's a reason why you're here. And I promise you, that reason is not to be someone else's punching bag. And that reason is not for a human being, a son of man, to kill you. God created you. You live the life that God gave you until God calls you home. Okay? Don't let anybody take you out. So, yes, please drop your comments. Again, if you enter the giveaway, drop your Instagram or Facebook handle. And thank you guys so very much. Temi and Edgy, I cannot thank you enough. And also ask your questions. Ask your questions. Those two people are like two of my really close friends. So ask your questions. I will send it to them. They can help you answer whatever questions you have. So please just drop your question in the comment section. Thank you guys so very much. God bless you all. Thank you. Oops. Oh.
You didn't kill it.
Yeah. No, not yet.